This meeting demonstrated how we can give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take away. So we're in a position where we can build big, build bold, build one Canadian economy, and build now. Thank you very much. Merci, and I will now pass to Premier Ford.
Let's not forget that President Trump has declared an economic war on every single business, every single person in this country.
All right, I'll just hand to our host, Premier Mo.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and thank you to Minister Freeland, Minister LeBlanc, and Minister Hodgson for joining us here today in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And thank you to each of my colleagues, premiers from across Canada, who, as I say, collectively, we represent all Canadians as well, like the Prime Minister and the federal government does. We had a good meeting with discussions around how we can advance the opportunities for Canadians from coast to coast to coast, how we can work together to meet the aspirations and the statements of the Prime Minister with respect to becoming the strongest economy in the G7 nations and advancing Canada's opportunity to become a global energy superpower. Now, there's much discussion that happened today on what that path looks like, and there's much discussion, I think, in fairness, that is and work that is going to happen post today's meeting. But I would say it was a very positive meeting on behalf of all Canadians, national and subnational, well, one Canadian national and 13 subnational leaders. And I would just close with, again, thanking my Premier colleagues for joining us here in Saskatoon today, and thank Prime Minister Carney for having the First Minister's meeting in Saskatoon today.
Great. Thank you very much, Premier Mo. Thanks for your hospitality to the people of Saskatchewan, for welcoming the Premier's federal ministers, myself here, particularly as we spoke during the day yesterday and before, at a very difficult time as fires rage across the northern prairies. The response is a massive undertaking. Credit to your government, that of Premier Canoe, Premier Smith, the volunteers, first responders, the support from the Canadian Forces and the Canadian government across the board. I also want to thank the premiers for their support, their consistent, unwavering, constructive support in our response to the unjustified and unlawful tariffs that the U.S. is still imposing on Canada. We are fighting to get the best deal for Canada. That work is ongoing. Minister LeBlanc will be headed to Washington this evening to continue negotiations focused on building nation-building projects, and that took up much of our discussion today. I outlined during the meetings the central contribution of the federal government to this mission, first and foremost to eliminate all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility, and to enable the federal government, working with the provinces, the territories, Indigenous peoples, to identify and expedite nation-building projects. To be deemed in the national interest, those projects should, amongst others, strengthen the Canadian economy, strengthen our autonomy, our resilience, and our security, provide undeniable benefits to Canada, have a high likelihood of successful execution, be a high priority for Indigenous leaders, and to drive Canada's clean growth potential. Under a new process, once a project is designated as being in the country's national interest, a new federal major project office will bring together all relevant federal departments to provide a single set of conditions that must be met for those projects to advance. And the commitment is to proceed with the approval process for a maximum of 2 years under a new streamlined process that prioritizes federal resources to these most important of projects. We will also work towards one project, one review, including through new cooperation agreements with the provinces. The point is to build the certainty, the stability, and the ambition that builders need to catalyze enormous investment to make Canada into an energy superpower and to build the strongest economy in the G7. We had wide-ranging discussions. There was a lot of preparation for this meeting. We discussed a wide range of potential nation-building projects, including, and this is far from exhaustive, the Western and Arctic Corridor, which, amongst other things, connects energy, critical minerals, and trade infrastructure, the Eastern Energy Partnership, critical minerals pathways, which include a range of critical mineral projects that premiers can speak to, the next stage of nuclear from uranium to SMRs to large-scale nuclear, and a series of infrastructure investments for export diversification from ports to rails to last-mile roads. All First Ministers agreed that Indigenous partnerships and equity will be central to success. And upcoming federal legislation will mandate both meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples both during the process of determining which projects are in the national interest and developing the conditions for each project. The goal here is to get projects built faster so we can create more high-paying careers and greater prosperity for all. This meeting demonstrated how we can give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take away. So we're in a position where we can build big, build bold, build one Canadian economy, and build now. Thank you very much. Merci, and I will now pass to Premier Ford.
Well, thank you so much, Prime Minister, for bringing us together. It was a very productive meeting. I also want to thank Premier Moe for your hospitality. We had a great time over the last couple of days, a lot of discussions moving forward. So I also want to thank all the premiers. We have an incredible group of premiers. We are united. We're going to move this country forward, the likes of which this country's never seen before. And how we're going to do this is making sure that we don't have federal duplication. As the Prime Minister said, let's get it done quick, fast, immediate, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's not forget that President Trump has declared an economic war on every single business, every single person in this country. And we need to do everything we can to fight against him. Again, what the Prime Minister said, and I agree, an illegal trade war. And I think the President's going to have a rude awakening. We're going to unleash our strengths, and that's be it mining, the pipelines across the country, infrastructure, roads, bridges, highways, and specifically the road to the Ring of Fire. So we had that discussion, and as I mentioned earlier on, the last couple times I talked to the press that, you know, nothing's carved in stone at this meeting. There was great discussions because I know the first question is going to be, what are the exact projects? I have all the confidence in the world. The Prime Minister and his team are going to bring back the list. They're going to sit down. They're going to discuss it to build these large national infrastructure projects from coast to coast to coast. The other area that we spoke about was bail reform. It's absolutely critical we keep our communities safe. It's each and every one of our jobs to protect communities, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make sure the real bad guys, these violent criminals, go to jail. And people may have a drug addiction, we're going to support them. I'm not worried about them committing crimes as much as I am the criminals that are coming in from all over the country, all over the world, flying in and causing chaos in neighborhoods. And I'll speak just about Ontario on that issue there. But again, Prime Minister, I want to thank you. Working collaboratively and cooperating with all the premiers. I'm very, very confident. I want to tell the people of Canada, and in my case, the people of Ontario, there's hope. We're going to look at how we're going to move forward and implement as quickly as possible prosperity in our province and across the country. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll pass it back to you, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Premier. And I guess we'll pass to the press for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question period. We'll take 20 minutes of question, 20 minutes de question. Judy Trin, first question.
Judy Trin, CTV News. Prime Minister, other than the premiers of BC and Quebec, there seems to be growing consensus in support of pipelines carrying bitumen east, west, probably north as well. Is the federal government at this point considering pipelines a project of national significance, and will you be sidestepping certain environmental requirements outlined in Bill C-69 to fast track such a project?
Well, the first thing to say is, and let me be a bit more specific, if I could, because and I will defer to the premiers to add, but the Western premiers and the premiers of the territories met and supported an approach. The Western Corridor, the Western and Arctic Corridor, effectively a corridor between port to port to port, from Pacific Northwest to James Bay to Grays Bay Point, and within that are opportunities in energy, critical minerals, and well beyond. And specifically within energy, opportunities, yes, for an oil pipeline to get to Tidewater. Now, within the broader context of national interest, the interest is in, as mentioned in the press release, decarbonized barrels. So working alongside forms of decarbonization for those barrels. That is absolutely in our interest. It provides diversification of trade partners. It provides the development of new industries. It provides economic activity across the west and into the north. So yes, there's real potential there. We took up a good deal of our time in discussions and potential to move forward on that. And if further developed, the federal government will look to advance it.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Prime Minister, you are saying that you would fast track a project involving decarbonized oil through pipelines, decarbonized energy. And is that something that, Premier Smith, that you agree with, or do you feel that we need to get the bitumen out of the ground now as soon as possible?
Well, let's call it the grand bargain, that we know that there is a group of oil sands companies that have been advocating for some time for what they call the Pathways Project, that would decarbonize the production of their bitumen through the use of carbon capture, utilization, and storage, ultimately using hydroelectric or small modular nuclear to decarbonize, and then direct air capture for the last mile. I think the point I was making to the Prime Minister and my colleagues is that there's lots of ways to decarbonize, but the Pathways Project is an expensive project. It would cost anywhere from $10 to $20 billion to get built. And to make the economic case for that, having more egress with more barrels to be sold to Asia is the way to pay for it. If we had a 1 million barrel a day pipeline going to the Northwest BC coast, that would generate about $20 billion a year in revenues. And so that seems like a pretty good value proposition if both of those projects can proceed at once.